So when we're reading the food labels, so how in the world do we find this on our food labels? So they have to have clear labeling of the top allergens, being milk, soy, wheat, egg, peanut, tree nut, fish, and shellfish. And milk. I missed one. So anyways, it has to be in the English name. So if a product says casein, it must actually say milk somewhere. So it's either next to it in parentheses or on the bottom, and it should say contains milk. The only exception to this when doing the 6-food elimination diet is mollusks. And so those actually don't need to be labeled. So if you have something that has oysters in it, for example, or oyster sauce, it doesn't have to be labeled. Soy oils and soy lecithins, those are safe on a soy allergy diet. The difficulty here is that products are actually labeling these as containing soy. So when you're reading the label and it says contains soy and you find soy lecithin and that's the only source of soy in the product and you can be certain of it, then it's actually safe. That one's really hard because sometimes you see that as well as, let's say, natural flavorings. You find natural flavorings, you see the soy lecithin, you don't know for sure if the natural flavorings are or are not derived from soy. So that's one where you'd have to call the company to be sure. Unfortunately, you know, sometimes we say, well, never mind, I'm just not even going to bother. I'm not going to eat that, or I'm not going to serve that to my child. But once we start doing that, we end up with a lot of eliminations, and we get ourselves down the rabbit hole, and we don't really have a lot of options. This one, and I apologize if it's hard to see from the back, I just wanted to put on here for 2 reasons. You can see the statement in the middle says made in our own dedicated peanut-free tree nut facility. That's awesome for peanut and tree nut allergic kids. But it contains fish, and they actually don't regulate those statements. So you might see them too where it says may contain or may be processed in or on the same line as egg, for example. And that's something that in most cases I say we have to avoid it. There are some times when, at the guidance of our allergists, we say, you know what, that's actually such a minuscule amount of cross-contact, if it's even there, and for this particular child, that would be okay. So as a dietitian, without that information from the allergist, I always say, let's avoid it, because I would hate for something to happen if there really was some cross-contact that was a problem. So some other notes. So it's not actually required on meat, poultry, some egg products, and that's because they're regulated by different parts of the government. And this is a problem when you're talking about, let's say, a brined turkey. You're buying turkey for Thanksgiving, and it has a marinade on it. They don't necessarily have to be clear about the ingredients. This infuriates people, including me. Why not? Why don't we have to label these? Well, they don't, and I can't fix it right this second, so that's something to be aware of. And like I said, the soy oil or soy lecithin is not required to be labeled as a soy derivative. However, I find that most companies are labeling it as such. And then the cautionary labeling, like I was mentioning in the slide previously, really isn't regulated. So they can say may be in contact with or may have been processed on the same line as, and there's no regulation. So if they clean their lines really, really well, more so than you would even, let's say, clean your own kitchen between things, there's no way of knowing that. You don't know, you know, if they say it's processed on the same line, one company might be cleaning really well and the other company probably not. So there's no difference in that statement and what it really means.